Some women do not grow up. They do not mature. They remain psychologically fixated in a state of eternal youth, charming, light, spontaneous, but deeply fragile. You have seen this, perhaps even in yourself. They are the ones who live as if life were an endless rehearsal for something that never arrives. They jump from experience to experience, never truly diving into anything. Intense relationships, but brief. Grand plans, but never realized. A sparkle in their eyes that hides a silent pain. The fear of growing up. This is called Puella Aeterna, the eternal girl. A powerful archetype, described by Carl Jung as the feminine counterpart of puer aeternus, the eternal youth. But it was Marie-Louise von Franz, his closest disciple, who dissected the mechanisms of this pattern with brutal precision. According to her, the woman dominated by this archetype lives in a state of suspension, resisting psychological time, refusing the crossing into maturity. On the outside, she lives off lightness and charm. On the inside, she carries the terror of surrender, responsibility, and commitment to the real. She does not want to grow up, because growing up hurts. Growing up means facing one's own emptiness, making irreversible choices, letting go of fantasies. And the Puella prefers to float. She prefers to keep all doors open. She prefers idealization to real encounters. She dreams of perfect love, but flees from intimacy. She wants freedom, but not autonomy. She lives on promises, but fears the weight of realization. Perhaps you are starting to realize that this is not just theory. This is the life of many women. Women who do not understand why they feel so lost, even while being admired. Who do not know why they keep repeating the same mistakes, even while being intelligent. Who collect beginnings, but have no continuity. Who feel a constant emptiness, but do not know where it comes from. Emma Jung, when talking about feminine archetypes, said that a woman needs to integrate the animus, the inner masculine, to achieve a more solid relationship with herself and the world. But the Puella refuses this integration. She does not want structure, she wants to soar, and that is exactly why she falls. In this video, I will show you how this archetype acts in the shadows, how it disguises weakness as freedom, how it distances you from who you could become, and more importantly, how to start getting out of this. But I warn you right away, this is not content to comfort you. It is to confront you, because you deserve to be whole, not just charming. If you have the courage to follow through to the end, you may discover that you are still living as a maiden, when you should have already become a queen. The eternal girl is not a phase. It is not a personality trait. She is an archetype, a deep, collective and timeless psychic form that inhabits the feminine unconscious. Carl Jung identified her as a reflection of the puer aeternus, the eternal youth who refuses to grow up, to make commitments, to anchor himself in reality. Marie-Louise von Franz was even more incisive in addressing this figure. For her, the Puella Aeterna represents a woman whose soul remains trapped in an idealized, romanticized, sterile youth, and for that reason, blocks her individuation, her maturation, and her real flourishing. She is the woman who lives in the almost loves, almost builds, almost surrenders. She believes her freedom lies in the absence of ties, when in fact, she is merely fleeing from herself. Deep down, she does not want to deal with the limits that life imposes. She has an aversion to routine, boredom, predictability. Everything that refers to the concrete frightens her because it threatens the magical world where she feels safe, a universe where anything can still happen, as long as nothing needs to be sustained. Von Franz accurately describes this pattern in The Problem of the Puer Aeternus. The Puella is so enchanted with the image of herself as a free spirit that anything requiring real commitment becomes a threat. For her, passion is safe as long as it is platonic. The project is exciting as long as it is abstract. Life is light as long as it is dreamed, but never lived. And the cruelest part of it all? She is often admired. People look at her and see brilliance, creativity, spontaneity. And indeed, these qualities are present, but they are just the surface. What no one sees is the existential void that silently grows behind so much movement. The Puella is always too busy to realize she is going in circles. She is a pilgrim of nothingness. But where does this refusal to grow come from? Why do so many modern women identify with this pattern? This is where the crucial point comes in. The Puella does not arise from nothing. She is the product of a culture that venerates youth and despises maturity. A culture that tells women that their value lies in being desired, not in being profound. That convinces them that the feminine is synonymous with lightness, not authority. Moreover, the eternal girl is often a psychic response to unresolved traumas. The emotional pain frozen in childhood creates an unconscious resistance to maturation. The wounded woman builds a charming persona to survive. But this mask, over time, becomes a prison. The archetype of the Puella is, in this sense, both a symptom and a defense mechanism. Emma Jung, in Animus and Anima, points out that a woman who does not work on her relationship with her own unconscious contents tends to be possessed by them. And the result is exactly that. A life in which the conscious personality is fragile, inconsistent, vulnerable to the archetypal forces that operate beneath the surface. The eternal girl is not in control of her own life. She is being lived by an image she does not even realize she carries. Now perhaps everything begins to make sense. Your restlessness, the repetitions, the feeling that you never truly feel whole, even when it seems you have everything. This is the effect of the Puella. She does not want you to grow. Because growing requires losing the illusion, and that is the most expensive currency of the psyche. But then, an essential question arises. If this is the maiden that dominates so many lives, where is the rest of the feminine? Where is the path to something more whole, deeper, more true? This is what we will talk about now, because within you, beyond the girl, there is a sleeping queen, and perhaps it is time to wake her up. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Within every woman, there are psychic forces that operate far beyond conscious will. Jung called these forces archetypes, primordial, universal images that shape our most intimate experiences. In the case of the feminine psyche, two of these archetypes stand out particularly intensely: the maiden and the great mother. Understanding the tension between these two figures is essential to recognize why so many women remain trapped in the illusion of eternal youth, even when everything around them is already crying out for transformation. The maiden is the image of purity, beauty, and freshness. She represents potential, openness to the new, the hope for something grand that is yet to come. She is the one who enchants, who seduces, who dreams. She is light, solar, inspiring. In youth, this archetype is vital. It drives the desire to explore the world, to experience, to seek something beyond known limits. But the problem begins when this image remains dominant in adulthood. When the maiden does not make space for other aspects of the psyche to manifest, she becomes an obstacle. She prevents the woman from maturing, from establishing herself in the world, from taking responsibility for her own destiny. The woman continues to see herself as potential, but never allows herself to be realization. She remains in the eternal almost. Almost knows what she wants, almost surrenders, almost finds herself. And this almost becomes a black hole, an emotional vortex that sucks away vitality, purpose, and meaning. Marie-Louise von Franz writes that the maiden who refuses to die symbolically cannot be reborn as a whole woman. And here we are not talking about physical death, but the symbolic death of the childish ego, that part of us that insists on living in fantasy, that seeks to be saved, that rejects the weight of reality. This death is painful, yes, but absolutely necessary, because only from it can the Great Mother, the archetype of maturity, nourishment, and wisdom, emerge. The Great Mother is not the nice, domesticated woman who cared for everyone and forgot about herself. No, she is the queen of her own inner world. She commands, nurtures, sustains, and transforms. Unlike the maiden, who waits to be chosen, the Great Mother chooses. Unlike the maiden, who wants to be admired, the Great Mother demands respect. She does not need to be charming because she is whole. She is the one with deep roots, who knows when to give, when to protect, when to withdraw. The woman who embodies this archetype stops asking for permission to exist. She simply exists, with presence, depth, and direction. But few reach that point. Because the path requires sacrifice, the maiden must die for the queen to be born. And this is a passage that the Puella Aeterna does not want to make. She clings to the mirror of youth, to the promises of idealized love, to the illusion that time does not pass. But time passes. And when a woman refuses the call of maturity, she begins to wither inside. The archetype of the maiden, which was a source of brilliance, becomes a gilded cage. Jung, when speaking about feminine individuation, points out that a woman only becomes complete when she integrates what is hidden within her, not just the seductive image she shows to the world, but also her creative, destructive, and regenerative powers. The woman who lives only in the domain of the maiden is fragmented. She is half. And as long as she is half, she will be dependent, unstable, and vulnerable. Do you feel that there is something more in you, something stronger, deeper, more true? You are right. That something is your inner queen, waiting for the moment when you will stop fleeing and start to reign. But before that, we need to look honestly at the places where the Puella sabotages her life, where she undermines her relationships, her career, her decisions. Because if you do not see where the eternal girl is operating, she will continue to be in charge without you realizing it. And that is exactly what we will explore next, where the Puella acts, how she sabotages, and what she is trying to avoid at all costs. The Puella Aeterna is seductive. She has something charming, almost magical. She is creative, impulsive, spontaneous. She is always full of new ideas, overwhelming passions, and grand plans. But this energy cannot sustain the weight of the real world. She shines brightly, and then disappears. Because deep down, she doesn't want to sustain anything. She wants to feel, dream, experience, but not to stay. In relationships, this is devastating. The Puella wants love, but she doesn't want commitment. She idealizes the perfect partner, the sublime connection, the absolute fusion. But the moment the other shows themselves to be human, flawed, real, she pulls away. She starts saying that it's not like it used to be, that something has changed, that the magic is gone. The truth is that the magic never existed. It was projection. She projected onto the other what she has not yet found within herself: stability, depth, emotional structure. Marie-Louise von Franz, in The Problem of the Puella Aeterna, describes the woman who, dominated by this archetype, lives in search of a savior, someone to pull her out of her internal confusion, to bring meaning to her existence. But when that man appears, she demands so much from him that no one can sustain. And frustrated, she returns to her cycle of idealization and rejection. This oscillation is typical of the Puella. She wants the ecstasy of the encounter, but she doesn't want the work of the bond. Because every bond requires renunciation, confrontation, frustration, and she is not willing to deal with that.